Hello, James here, and very brief introduction to week 11 for QQM, the quantitative strand. The previous 2 weeks you've been looking at SPSS, or used SPSS, firstly to manipulate data and make it look how you want it to look, and secondly to do some analysis on categorical data, particularly using the chi-squared technique. This week we're going to step away from specific analysis and think in more general terms about how one goes about designing a quantitative study. Now, essentially what you might have been used to in the past as in a sort of undergraduate level is at a fairly basic level. Now, at an MSc level, when designing a quantitative study, what we want to see is a more thought and depth within the procedure itself, so one can see the rationale, the identification of a problem, the identification of the hypothesis, and the method that addresses that hypothesis in the best possible way. Now, what I've done is presented some slides with an audio commentary that goes through that process. Now, it is sort of what you've probably done before, but in a master's sense, what we want is to be able to see those stages in a much clearer way. So essentially you'll look at those slides, make some notes, and use the template provided in Activity 2 to design your own quantitative study. Now, it's not going to be in huge amounts of detail. I've actually put deliberate word limits on some of the questions to ask you of your study. They're deliberately tight in order to make you as concise as possible, to see if it's possible to write a convincing rationale, title, hypothesis and procedure within 750 words, which sounds a lot, but it really isn't. Now, for the coursework for this module, you will have to come up with a proposal. Now, it might be the case that you want to do qualitative proposal, and that's fine, but I know certainly some of you will be using a quantitative proposal or quantitative design. So it makes sense, if you're going to do that, to use that for your idea, or if you haven't come up with an idea, come up with one this week about what you're going to do. It may well be that that's your dissertation as well, and may well dovetail nicely. It's entirely up to you. The process can be completely different projects. The process is the same regardless. But this week really is to start thinking in depth about how one produces a really convincing quantitative paradigm to investigate. Because in doing that and following the steps I talk about, you will come up with something that is much more convincing, is probably more powerful, and is a more valid and reliable study. So we're stepping away from analysis this week. We're going to talk about design. It's not as though you have nothing to do this week, so you've got the qualitative strand as well, so you've got plenty to do. And next week we'll get back to talking about statistical inference, and we'll do some more tests in SPSS. So this week, designing a quantitative study, which you will send to me and I will have a look at and comment on. It's not formal assessment, but it is part of some of the informal assessment we like to go through to make sure everyone's doing okay, and it's also very useful because you can get feedback from me. Okay, so good luck with this week. I did record this video 3 times, so there are some outtakes. If you're offended by swearing, please don't watch them. Cheers.